Hi, everyone, and welcome to the 289th episode of Mike White's podcast. I forgot to note down what number it is. I'm Jack, as always, joined by Casey.
No,
How's things, mate?
yeah, pretty good. Thanks. How are you?
I've been sick as a dog, but I'm a lot better today, and I appear to be able to speak without having a massive coughing fit, so much better than I was yesterday. Apparently, going to Elland Road when you're not very well and then sitting in the freezing cold all night doesn't do you any good. Who knew?
I did, but none of you fucking believed me. But that's personal.
But we were like I was going to say teenagers, but I think that's 20. So I think we were like 21 or 22, maybe, depending on when it was. But, you know, when you're in your 30s, you can be ill. When you're in your 20s, you're just being soft.
Yeah, Claire.
Yeah.
Don't know why I didn't go on that night out.
Yeah.
To celebrate a monumental result against Portsmouth.
Aye. Speaking of soft, Luton's defending was fairly soft. Leeds 3, Luton 0. This was every bit as comfortable as it seemed in terms of the pattern of play. It's a bit weird that Luton only had like 5 shots and 4 of them were pretty good chances, which it was kind of an odd distribution, but Leeds never really looked in any danger overall.
No, I mean, and full disclosure, I've seen the extended highlights of the game as I play on a Wednesday night. Listening to the game.
5-a-side, don't you?
Yeah, so listening to the game on the way back, I think was about the first time when they said that Luton had connected more than 5 passes in a row, and that was 15 minutes from the end. I know we discussed it last time, so we won't go back into it again, but it's just so odd seeing this team that the bulk of it, which competed last season with some very good teams, is just fallen apart by the looks of things.
Yeah, well, we said, I don't know if it's just like, I don't know particularly what the reason is, but I keep expecting them to come good, and I mentioned this last time. But based on that, there really doesn't seem to be out there. The first time I've really had to actually seen what Luton Town fans thought was after the game, and there was a lot of, hey, you know, guys, Mark Robins is right there. There was a lot of that. I think that it bought him some extra time, Rob Edwards getting that promotion. And I like Rob Edwards, what I've seen of him and stuff, but it didn't look great at all.
I did start wondering with that if it's a case of just you've had this group of players that's maybe been together a bit too long, and you maybe had a few players in there who have spent a while playing above themselves and just couldn't keep that up anymore.
Yeah, maybe.
But yeah, like you say, from everything I've seen, it looked to be just a comfortable performance. I mean, you mentioned the sort of some of the chances they had there. It's probably 2 of them came after it was 3-0 and the game was over.
Yeah, well, Adebayo's header from a corner was at 2-0, and that was a pretty good chance. And then the 2 decent saves that Meslier made were at 3-0.
I was happy for Meslier in that regard, in as much as they were shots he should be saving, but having not done a whole lot all evening, it was quite nice to see him make those saves and sort of keep his concentration levels up for that.
Yeah, the one where he came out at the feet of Adebayo was a pretty decent save because he got right to his feet, but I still think that he was down too low too early. And we may as well talk about now the one that where Victor Moses goes through and Strauch clears it off the line, which looked like an absolute goal-saving clearance and has been framed as such. And I've now seen it back, and I think it might have been going wide anyway. To be honest, it was going well across. But he still did brilliant to get there. But on that one, for my money, Meslier has gone down way too early on that one and just sort of made up Moses' mind for him. But it didn't lead to a goal, so it's fine. And now that's out of the way, we can just talk about all the good things. Sam Byron put Leeds 1-0 up after 10 minutes. And I mean, Leeds finished the game with like 76% possession. At the time Sam Byron put us 1-0 up, I feel like it was probably about 90. Like, Luton just had not had any of the ball whatsoever. There was some nice play on the left-hand side, just Leeds knocking it about. Solomon very involved. Sam Byram eventually gets a shot off on his left foot and it gets blocked and goes up in the air. And he reacts and the two Luton defenders don't. They just watch him. And then Sam Byram pulls out his best Paolo Di Canio minus the politics to score a fantastic goal.
Well, I mean, there is, I suppose, in Leeds anyway, there's only one acceptable salute to be doing after a goal like that. But and then they made a badge about it. No, it's one of those because that went in just before my game started. So I had a few people around me just going, "Oh, Leeds are 1-up. That's Sam Byram." And just that reaction of Sam Byram. Huh. So yeah, it was nice to see him get on the score sheet. Cause I know he wasn't a prolific goal scorer in his younger days, but sort of even rarer at this point. It was really well taken. Like you say, it's somewhat daft that it was allowed to drop, and Luton just didn't seem to react to it as quickly as they should have done. But Byram did all he had to do for it. Yeah,
it's a really good finish. Your camera's going a bit funny again, but it doesn't matter. No one's going to be watching live at this time on a weekday.
Yeah.
Vast majority of people are audio anyway. But yeah, it was a really good finish from Byram. It's not the easiest technique in the world, but he's also got it really into the far corner. Kaminski doesn't really get a chance with it. And basically for the rest of the first half, Leeds just continued to be dominant. Luton played a really kind of weird system. It was their normal 3-5-2. Reece Burke, that was the other chance for them. Reece Burke had a header at the far post late on in the first half that he should have done better with. That was the other one. So he played as wing-back. So they sort of played 4 centre-backs, one of them at wing-back, and Victor Moses on the left was the one that was allowed to attack a bit. But like they have Carlton Morris, they did knock balls up to him, but no one really got near enough to him if he did get out on them. So they had a front two, which should allow you to press, but they didn't press. But they also didn't. They were sat in a block, but they still left some space in behind. So they didn't really press, and they didn't really sit back. They were just sort of there.
So it's was it like a tight bank of 3, but were sort of 3 lines, but just set higher up than that probably should be.
Yeah, when you've seen the Leeds in the finishing 15th in the Championship years, where you're like, there's no real discernible plan here.
Yeah,
that's sort of what Luton looked like. There wasn't really much to it whatsoever. Leeds just basically completely dominated the half, had all of the ball, played the way through. Tanaka was brilliant again, but Joe Rothwell I thought had a really good game too. And they just completely controlled the game. We didn't create like mountains and mountains of chances. Like I think Manor Solomon had his best game in a Leeds shirt, which is weird to say a few days after he scored twice. But I'm sure that who scored and other things ratings will have been a lot higher for the last one. But he was just better on the ball in this. He seemed busier off it as well. Movement was there. He found Nonto on the edge of the box for a left foot shot that took a deflection, and he found Nonto for a right foot shot that was very like the goal he scored like a month ago, where it came across and he just rasped it in, but he didn't quite catch it. Leeds just looked comfortable, and luckily, right at the end of the half, Joe Rothwell corner headed towards goal by Strauch. It's a pretty good save from Kaminski, but Joe Peru just smashes in the rebound off of Kaminski's hands. I say Kaminski gets hands to it, but what he actually does is just put his hands up and hope for the best. And Peru actually smashes it straight at his hands because he ain't got much room, but with enough power that it's always going to go in. And once Leeds got that second, even with all the Leeds United pessimism, everyone in the stand sort of looked at each other and went, yeah, that's that.
Yeah, the entire time, I think, because I think it was Neil Redfern on Radio Leeds, and sort of like I say, the entirety of listening to it, it was just the comfort with which Leeds have been playing, which is it's nice. I think it's one of the things that's probably lacking quite a lot in the Championship is teams putting together 3 or 4 good performances in a row. So to follow up Swansea, which defensive lapses aside, from attacking perspective, went well. To follow that up with a routine win at home in a game you should be winning, and we did. It's good to see. And I think I said last time, if we can get, 3 or 4 wins together, I do think you probably start to pull away a little bit.
I mean, you would hope so. The one sort of downside was that I'm pretty sure that Sam Byram was expecting to go off quite early anyway for Max Verber, but this seemed a touch early by the standards of Daniel Farke. He has had a scan on his hamstring, which basically is just what happens if Sam Byram has to play 2 games in 4 days at this point. And it was a shame that he's had to go off, because still wrong, Firpo's back from his ban at the weekend, and Firpo should come back in, and I assume will. But in terms of a couple of games in 4 days, Sam Byram has done brilliantly in those 2 games. Goal and assist. Weird watching him play false 9 at times in the first half, because Peru would drop into a sort of 10 role. But because Aronson doesn't run into that space, and he was always into playing with Solomon, Solomon would go, and you'd end up with the nominal 9 as Sam Byram.
Sam Byram looking around going, right, I'll do it then.
Well, it's quite funny because there was a couple of times where it got played into him in that position, and there was like a 50-50 chance that maybe he could turn, and he just, no, lay it off. Nope. I've done my bit. I've scored a goal. I'm not messing anything up. So 2-0 at half-time. I should actually mention, because the one other thing that I forgot there is Leeds had a really good chance where Aronson got into the box with a clear shot at goal and just went to pass it to Nonto, who was marked, and just passed it straight to their player. It was such a weird decision that I can only assume he didn't know he had time, and that Nonto shouted for it, and he just went with the shout. But he was clean for it. He could have taken 2 more touches. He was so away. It was a very odd bit of decision making. Verber for Byram on the hour. You then had Dan James for Willie Nonto and Mateo Joseph for Joe Peru. And Dan James, although there's loads of the half, there isn't really much to say about it. Dan James gets the third, and it's a really good goal. Solomon on the left does some good work to get away, plays it into Bogle. Ball over the top, which is judged basically perfectly. It's just over Mari Bell, who, it's kind of weird, when Bell was against any other of our players, he looked pretty quick. And then he was up against Dan James. And he no longer looked quick.
A fresh Dan James as well.
Yeah, James runs onto the ball over the top and lobs the keeper. It's an excellent, excellent finish.
It's lovely. It's one of those where it hits the net before it hits the ground when it's looping in as well. It's so well judged. No, it was just so well judged by Dan James, and really great for him as well, because I think the discussion was always going to be for this game that most likely one of the wingers was going to drop out, and whichever one it was, they were going to be unlucky. So nice for him to make the sub appearance and still get that goal. See, again, very good performance at Swansea. Glad for him to come in and get that goal. And then you've got, with about 5-6 minutes left, Ramazani comes on as well.
Ramazani coming on at number 10 to replace Brendan Aronson. We also had Gilavogi for Rothwell. It didn't particularly lead to stuff, but he looked really lively immediately. Started beating players straight away. Did Ramazani.
It's really good to see him back, because I think he probably is the most exciting player in the team in terms of, I know Nonto is great to watch, but I think a lot of Nonto's is, I don't know, there's maybe a touch more directness about the way he goes forward and a bit more sort of power based, which, to be fair, when you've got legs the size of tree trunks like he does, I don't entirely blame him. Whereas I think Ramazani is probably, out of those, the one who's going to do the something from nothing. I'm just going to beat him, and I'm going to make it look good as well.
Yeah, it was very good to see him back. To be honest, this was a game where it's always a good sign when you look. I look through our 11 there, and like of the starting 11, I think you could make an argument that every single one of them was at least a 7 out of 10. And like Peru wasn't amazing off the ball, but he was better than he was at Swansea, and he got a goal. And like all the wingers were good. Solomon getting 90 minutes will have been good for him. You assume that then against Blackburn, he's the one that drops out.
That would make sense.
Yeah, and it'll be James and Monto for that one.
Yeah, I think so. I think you probably see Nonto move back across and him and Firpo on the left. It's really nice to have those options, and a group of players that, as we said last time, 4 players who are very good quality players at this level, and excluding the injury, 4 players who were all in pretty decent form for it as well.
Yeah. There's only like one tiny thing that it isn't even tactical. I just think it's a confidence thing that I think looked a lot better in this game. We played not loads of them, but more than normal. So a defence splitting passes from full-back areas into the middle, where you'd take out a line of Luton players, like proper line splitting passes. Bogle played a few of them and they were really good. Roden played a couple, but Strauch played loads. It was never Byron because we ended up with a situation where one of Tanaka or Lothwell just ended up nominally stood at centre back, while Strauch got given 25 yards to just step forward into, and he just kept doing it and then playing a pass. Strauch was really good in this game. Obviously, he had the clearance, which was great, but for the most, and he held up well for long balls to Morris and then Adebayo. But just his ability on the ball, he looked so confident. And that really helped. I just think throughout the team, they looked really settled and as if they went into Farc power saving mode like they normally do, but it didn't become as sort of tepid as it can do in that situation. We were in power saving mode and still had enough to offer that it just forced Luton back all the time. And yeah, Luton got a few chances at the end. It was the equivalent of, that American football phrase of scored in garbage time. When an NFL team's up 30 points to 10 and then the other team will score 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter to make it look like it was a closer score than it is. It was those chances at the end felt a bit like that.
Yeah. I think there's probably something that would be quite nice to follow up on with that, in as much as obviously Tanaka and Rothwell are nigh on playing every minute at the moment because the next option is Charlie Crew or Guilavogui, and typically Guilavogui has been coming on for like Aronson, and it's more been take away the number 10, put an extra body in front of the back 4. But I'd be totally okay if you had that moment of just going, you know what, just let Strauch and Roden carry it out and just, like you say, have Tanaka just sort of fill in at centre-back to let them go. They, centre mids are going to cover a lot more ground naturally during the game anyway. And Strauch absolutely has the passing range for it.
Yeah, I can't remember the exact numbers, but I think Joe Donahue put up Tanaka's passing numbers, and it was something like he got 114 out of 120, something like that. And I think Strauch had 116. I think it was. They just had so much of the ball in midfield. It was so very, very comfortable. The last thing to talk about in the game was it was lovely to see on the 11th minute the chance for Gary Speed came out. Very well observed and applauded by all the Luton fans as well, to be fair to him. It was really nice to see that all the word had got round and stuff, because it got round enough people, because then the people around me who don't go on social media and stuff, like, it took 5 seconds. Oh, it must be the anniversary. And then off we go. But it was nice to see.
No, like I say, it's really, really nice to see that. And it's something that we will continue with for many years, I think, at this point. It's pretty well ingrained in Leeds fans. I think if there's ever anyone who comes along and who takes over in the future, who isn't aware of these things, they will very quickly be made aware of it.
It's one of the things that, for all of its evils, it's one of the things social media is good for. Because as it does naturally fall out of people's minds, it only takes one person to remember. And if they put it on Twitter, by the way, that's tomorrow, it'll get round everywhere by the end of the day again. So it allows you to keep things like that going.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you won't have been able to see it at the time, but yeah, the graphic went up on the big screen as well during the game.
Oh, good. I did see a picture of that on Twitter after, but yeah, from where my seats were, you can't see the screen, so I didn't realise until afterwards. But that puts Leeds back top of the league. Level on points with Sheffield United, 4 goals, better goal difference. Both of us 35. Burnley and Sunderland 33. Watford 29. Middlesbrough 27. West Brom 27. And then in 8th place, 25 points, Blackburn Rovers. And that's where we go tomorrow at the stupid kick-off time of 1:30. Which, okay. just make it 12:30 and then it can be on telly. If police are insisting that it's got to be an earlier kickoff, because I'm assuming they gave us like 7,500 tickets like they always do, which I'm grateful for, by the way. I'm not going this time, but it's still good. Just make it earlier so that it's done by 2:45 and then it can be on telly as well. But I'm sure there will be ways to find it.
Yeah, probably. If anyone knows of any ways these days to listen to football matches.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it comes and goes, my rants about kickoff times and things like that. Just in terms of, I can sort of live with stuff like this purely, like, it doesn't make sense, but right, it's fine. It doesn't, because you're not going too far away. It doesn't really affect anything that much. But then there'll be other daft stuff that the Football League come up with or television deals come up with, and you just think, oh, for fuck's sake.
Yeah. Well, the traffic getting to Elland Road on Wednesday night was horrendous. And from my dad's house to Elland Road, ended up taking, well, not even to Elland Road, to where we park, which is relatively near Elland Road, was like an hour and 5 minutes. That's how bad the traffic was. Yeah. We legitimately could have got to Ewood Park probably as quick, if not a bit quicker.
We'll all go to that service station.
Yep. It's great. Just off the motorway. You can just park immediately. It's fantastic.
It's good, and you get your steps in. It's the best of both worlds.
Yeah. But Blackburn had a good result. They were Wednesday night as well, weren't they? They won 1-0 at Middlesbrough with a goal that was so very offside. Like I hadn't realised how bad it was until earlier today when I finally saw it. It's their second win in a row. They also won at Cardiff 3-1, but before that they had lost 3 on the bounce. So they're a little bit up and down with the form. It looks a decent side on paper. Casey, start talking because I'm going to cough.
I mean, as you look through, I thought that they'd kind of lost a fair bit. Obviously, Smodics was the big one leaving in the summer. Danny Barth is a decent player to have at centre back. Carl McFadden's had a decent couple of years in the Championship as well. Todd Cantwell's been off on his expedition over the last couple of years and still probably complaining about being frozen out at Norwich. Yeah, I mean, I'm surprised they're doing as well as they are. They are. Oh, Lewis Baker's there as well.
Well, they only stayed up on the last day, didn't they, last season, after it all went a bit wrong. And that involved them winning at Elland Road and winning at Leicester in the last few games. So, like, they could have gone. Dominic Hyam will probably play at centre-back alongside Danny Bart. He's the one that scored the goal at Borough. Callum Britton and Harry Pickering at fullbacks have both been talked up quite a lot. But it's not certain that Pickering will play because they've also got that Owen Beck that we were linked with. in the summer. He's on loan from Liverpool, isn't
he? Yeah.
I don't actually know if he's any good. I know he's highly rated, but I haven't really seen out about him. Tronstad in midfield is meant to be pretty good as well, but I haven't seen a great deal of him. I doubt Lewis Baker will play because it looks as if Lewis Travis has been getting the nod. I don't know much about him. So you mentioned Cantwell, and if he's on it, he's a good player. And they've got probably Ryan Hedges on the left, who I don't know as much about, but the one that I know more about is Tyree Stolen, who'll play on the right. And every time I've watched him, he looks like a really good player. So for us, I know that he's been really good this season. There is still weaknesses defensively in Firpo. So you would think that's probably Blackburn's best avenue?
Yeah, I reckon so. I'm just looking at it's another week of looking at a team where I just think there's not really many of them I'd actually bring into this Leeds team, but yeah, I don't know. They've got Andy Vyman, and that just feels weird that he's not at Bristol anymore.
Yeah, but he's out injured. As is Scott Wharton, Adam Wharton's big brother, who probably would start at centre back if he was fit.
I was going to say, I'm just looking here at Ohashi as well, but again, similar. 1 in 4 this season so far.
The big review I've had of Ohashi is Blackburn had a couple of games early in the season, and the review. My dad happened to watch him, and after both games, he said his word, because he's rubbish with names. He just went, "That Japanese striker, he's good." So he must have been doing something right to get for it to be the one that he picked out straight away.
Japanese players are in vogue at the moment, aren't they?
Yeah.
I mean, there's him, there's Tanaka, and there's a decent chunk of the Celtic team.
Found
some success there.
Maeda, Furuhashi, and I think there's at least one more.
Yeah. I mean, clearly they must be doing all right, Blackburn, but again, like you say, the up and down form so far. What are they coming into this one? 2 wins and then 3 defeats before that, which is pretty much the story of the Championship so far. We should win, shouldn't we?
I mean, the problem is that we just find ourselves kind of saying that in every game.
Well, I did find it quite interesting. I think was it during the Swansea game on commentary? They said that I think typically the percentage of away wins in the Championship is sort of mid-30s, and at the moment it's low 20s.
Yeah, that was in the commentary of the Swansea game. I remember them saying that, which that is one of the things that that is something that could go against actually. And I am basically stealing this point because while I was working earlier, I had all stats out way on in the background and I mentioned this. Blackburn's pitch isn't great, and we had a game called off last week because of the rain. So I'm guessing the pitch isn't much better now.
The Portsmouth fans would have been thrilled about that one.
Yeah, especially seeing as they then had their home game called off yesterday because of floodlight failure.
Rough couple of days for them.
Yeah, a bad pitch probably it shouldn't make that much difference, but it wouldn't suit us. I wonder if I was just looking up his name because I couldn't remember, but their other striker that hasn't been starting lately, Maktar Gay, he's like 6'6". So they might want to just lump some balls up to him. But based on how they did again, I know that he's a little bit bigger than Morris, but Adebayo was like 6'4", and we, apart from that one corner, handled him fairly well.
Yeah. It's I'd be interested to see with this one. I know obviously we kind of discussed there'll probably be the rotation with the wingers where you'd expect it to be Nonto and James at this point. I don't think there's any need to be looking to start Ramazani in this one.
Yeah, I mean, I think in the press conference he basically said he isn't ready to start.
And then Aronson always plays.
Yeah.
Piru scored, so he will continue there.
He probably will. The only argument against it is just that it would be his third start in, 6 days?
Yeah.
So that is the only... I don't think that Piru will get dropped for Joseph based on form, but he might just for legs.
Yeah. And then you'll still have Tanaka and Rothwell in the middle.
Yeah.
And
Bogle, Road and Stout and Thurpo.
Yeah. I'm almost certain that's the team, barring late injuries.
Yeah, I would be thinking the same. I mean, Solomon played well enough that it's harsh on him to not play, but I think that they probably went into this week saying to those 3 wingers, you're each going to start 2 games. And that seems reasonable to me.
Yeah. It's, again, like you say, it's not a knock on Solomon. It is just with an eye on his injury record. There's, when you've got that depth that we have, there's no need for him to be playing three games in a week.
Yeah.
It's fine.
And the other thing to mention is that it's a good thing Thurpo's back. We're obviously with the timing of Byram's injury, but it's less worrying than it was with Verba being back in the squad. When he came on, there was a few boos, but when I say a few, it was really not many. You didn't really hear it.
I think if it'd have been this at the very start of the season, you'd have probably heard it more. But I think it's the fact we're nearly in December now, and we're all sort of moving on a bit.
Yeah, and he was fine at left back. He got up and down well. He had one actual proper running behind that was weird to see.
I mean, so he should be the deserting bastard that he is. It's really weird to think that someone who in sort of those last few months of in the Premier League, we probably looked at and thought, well, he's our best defender here, and we're now in the Championship going, yeah, he's a good option off the bench. Is Max Verba?
Yeah, he's a perfectly fine backup centre back / third choice left back.
Yeah.
Oh, and it was stood over a free kick that Leeds got in the second half that Piru ended up taking. And it was when he stood out Verba and then went, oh, hang on, when we signed him, I remember seeing he scored a few for Salzburg, which I'd completely forgotten happened. And it would be nice to have a left-footed set-piece taker as an option. I'll say that was a thing as well. I know we scored off one, but just about, I think all about one of the balls Rothwell put in from a dead ball were all good, which is weird to see when it's Leeds.
He's one of those. I mean, I've obviously seen it with the goals he scored, but he's just a very good ball striker.
Yeah.
But he's got the added attributes that Sam Greenwood doesn't quite have. Yeah,
it seems that way. But at the start of this week, one of the guys I work with said, would you take 7 points from the 3 games? I was like, well, 3 games, 2 of them are away. Yeah, I probably would. But now we've got 6 from 2 of them. And I'm coming into this game going, well, if you offered me a point right now, I don't think it would be a bad result, but I wouldn't take it. I wouldn't be taking the bet now. Whereas at the start of the week, if you'd have said 2 wins and a draw, I'd have thought, great.
And how will you feel when we come away from these 3 games with 6 points?
I will be able to justify my head and go, it's still 2 points a game, that's fine. That's what I'll do. It depends on the manner of the performance. Both Benny and Connie had 3-0 wins against Luton, which leaves Alex a little bit rooted to the bottom, but also gives Connie a 10-point lead now. Because he's had a couple of correct... he had the correct score against QPR and the correct score against Luton. So he's picked up a bit of a lead. For this one, Connie's gone 3-1, Alex has gone 2-0, Benny has gone 3-0 again, simply because it worked last time. What have you got, Casey?
It's an away game, so I'm now following the trend of the Championship. I'm going to go a 1-1 draw.
Fair enough. I'm going to say that Leeds win this 1-0. I think that Blackburn will be a lot more defensive than they normally are. They'll still be 4-2-3-1. I just think they'll sit in a bit more. So I'm expecting this to be a little bit of a bitty game. I mean, the last time that I said it'll be tight and stuff, Leeds won 4-3. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, I think this one will be a tighter game. But I'm going to go 1-0 just because I look for our team, I look through theirs, and we've got more quality.
Yeah, I reckon it should be. That should be enough to carry us through this. But yeah, I'm not getting carried away, unlike anyone who's not a Leeds fan.
I did look earlier on. Leeds United are 1-9 to get promoted. It's ridiculous. But that will do us for episode 289 before my voice really does go because it's completely knackered. But yeah, I don't. Unless you want to add, Casey.
No, we're all good.